Welcome to another edition of Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble. I have a great guest today. Joining me today is Marc Goldberg, who is the co-founder of Resilience Labs. And Marc, welcome to Opening Pathways.
Tom, thank you very much for having me here.
It's great to have you here. And I'd love for you just a moment to tell my viewers a little bit about Resilience Lab before we get started.
So Resilience Lab is a company which is focused on providing access to quality mental health in the US. We are a technology-enabled healthcare company, and we believe that the challenge of mental health in the US is that there is no standard of quality, and that the access to quality mental health is difficult. But what's even more difficult is that you do not know if the person you're going to find and that you're going to like is a good one or a bad one. In essence, it's a universe with a lot of choices and a huge variance of quality between each other choice that might be in front of you. So not only is it difficult to find the right person to help you, whether that person is a prescriber, a doctor, a nurse practitioner, or a clinician, a therapist, hard to find, but also until you start working with that person, there is no way you can know if that person will work for you. And so it's a very specific industry. I met my co-founder 10 years ago. We launched the company 6 years ago, and we've been trying to innovate and make a difference in this industry
Great,
since 2019.
great. Well, tell me, what first sparked your idea for your company?
So it's a very specific story. I'm a software engineer by training. I have invested and built many software company. And I met my co-founder at Burning Man 10 years ago when we started to talk. And I decided I was going to build a company with her. And so I didn't build a company in this universe because I wanted to solve a problem in this space. I built a company because I wanted to build a company with the person whose name is Christine Carville that became my co-founder.
Wow. At Burning Man, I love that. That's some ideas always happen there. Was there a moment when you said to yourself, this is it, this is my path?
So I don't know what pass is. I think you have to do things as passionately as you can, otherwise they don't work. So we started the company in July 2019. I was in Paris, she was in New York, and I was commuting. And then in March 2020, I came back to New York just before COVID. Um, and basically we got locked down. And so we started to work 24 hours 7 on this project because we were locked in New York and there was nothing else to do. And so this was, I think, really the turning point and the acceleration. And then we raised some VC money. We funded the company in 2021. We raised some money in 22, in 23. And that today we have 400 employees. We've treated more than 15,000 patient clients. We have more than 5,000 clients as we speak. And so we went from a concept to a startup to a scale up, which is a pretty big, small and medium enterprise.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. Um, was there a time you ever doubted your vision? And if so, how'd you get through it?
so when we started, we had no clue what we wanted to do. The the insight was that this industry was so broken that there had to be a better way, but we had no idea what the better way was. And so we run the company as an experimentation environment where we try different things. And and for the first 2 years, it wasn't clear to us what we were building. We were just doing it until it became clear. Um, Now, as as the company grew, one, we took some money from other people, so we started to have some obligation toward them. Two, we built a team, so we started to have some obligation toward them. Three, we built a fairly large base of patients and clients, and so we started to have some obligation toward them. And so what at the beginning was just an idea. It was like, okay, let's do that. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll do something else. A couple of years after, you have stakeholder, and you have no other choice than doing the best you can to make this work for all those people. Now, what you do might work, might not work, and the acid test is, are you doing the best you can? And in the hard days, are you just dragging yourself through the day until you get to a better day? Um, and so that has been our journey. We went from having fun with an idea to building a startup where everybody was doing everything to creating a structure, um, and to now managing this fairly large collective, because 400 people in a remote first environment is a fairly large company.
Yes. The challenges of remote, and the benefits as well. Um, I'm interested in knowing a little bit about, for my viewers, your leadership style, and also, if you would, did you have influencers that guided your leadership style or a role model? Tell us a little bit about your leadership style.
So I believe in value-driven collective. I believe that the only way, so you have to create an organization where the power is decentralized, so you can scale and so you can grow. And the question is, what do you serve? Do you serve yourself and the various problems that you might have with yourself? Or are you trying to build an organization that can function without you? And there's this really interesting concept that says that true leadership is leadership that works when you're not in the room. And so how do you create structure and processes that work when you're not there? Um, so Netflix innovated with this idea of value-driven enterprise. And so very, very early, we're like, okay, so what are our value? At the beginning, the organization and my co-founder was looking at me and said, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, why are you taking our time and who cares about the value? We identify 10 value and we boil them down to seven and we boil them down to five, and we're still doing some work and some iteration. And Francis Fry, that teaches at the Harvard Business School, has written about that, which is leadership in the absence of the leader. And it's really fascinating. And this is what we have created. We have values: impact, collaboration, curiosity, belonging, and courage. So that those are the five value, the flags that we use to say, if those words resonate for you, join us. If they don't join us. But if they do resonate for you, join us. And we're doing some work too. We're currently iterating on them. Um, and so we've built a value-driven organization, and we have operationalized those value. Um, and I came to understand that my job is to reinforce the value by giving positive feedback to people when they behave according to the value. Now, as the European and the French, this is 180 degrees from where I'm coming from, which is, in France, the idea of positive feedback is very far away from our culture. We believe in negative feedback. Um, but the truth is it doesn't work. And so my job is week after week, every Monday we have an all hand meeting and we look at the numbers of the weekend. And my job is to make people reflect on who has done what, that embodies how we all collectively trying to behave. And the values are not how we behave, they are what we aspire to. And the value they have to give you goosebump. So for example, courage is a value. Courage, I think, is an amazing value. And it's
Is
the courage to work in a startup company where we don't know what we're doing. And of course we do get it wrong and we iterate. It's the courage of being kind with each other when we fail and when we shortfall of what we're trying to do. It's the courage of a clinician, a young clinician that's trying to take care of a client. It's the courage of a client that comes to get some mental health help. And so courage is, I think, a profound value for us as an organization. And of course, we benchmark our values compared to the people we compete with. And most of the value that you will find for most of the company um, are interesting, but they are not things that um, move you. And I think you have to be moved by. So curiosity is a great value. We want to be we want to be surrounded by people that are curious. One of my mentors is Yossi Vardi. So Yossi Vardi is the godfather of Israeli innovation. Yossi is 85, and he's the most curious man I have ever met. I met him 20 years ago when he was a 60 years old and then a 70 years old and now an 80 years old who is curious for people and life. And it's the biggest gift that you can give to yourself, which is how do you create an environment where you become more and more curious as you get older, which means you become smarter and smarter or less dumb and less dumb every day. And so curiosity is another amazing value. And the value indicate who you want to gather in your tribe. And so this concept of value-driven leadership is real, and I think can be operationalized. And you should attract the people for who those value means something.
yes.
Uh, and we've seen this, and I have lived this really months after months.
I love this idea of curiosity. I think it brings many things, but two that come to my mind are new ideas and learning. I think that it's really great when we're allowing people to bring new ideas because we don't have them all ourselves. So I'm interested, was there ever a big turning point in the organization that you reflect on?
So healthcare is a very specific industry because of the culture of the various stakeholders. When you build a software company, so I used to live in Palo Alto. I built software company in Palo Alto. And so you create a very small group of people. They're super smart. You don't tell them what they need to do because they're smart, hopefully smarter than you. And the culture is the culture that thrives on building new things as fast as possible. Now, healthcare is a collective of people that have very competing interests and values and culture. So the clinician, the doctor, the therapist couldn't care less about scale. Actually, the very idea of scale makes them cringe. What they want is they want to treat one human at a time and make a difference in the life of that person. And the idea that you're going to scale them and you want them um, not to see 20 people this week, but to see 40 people is actually horrible. That's the last thing that they want to do. Then you have the insurance company who are big insurance companies. So their business is uh, to deliver as little care so they can make some money from the uh, uh, the cost of the insurance that the corporation and the individual pay. Very different. So they are interested about total cost of care and the ratio of outcome to cost of the outcome. Then you have business technology people like me. What I love is building system that becomes more efficient with scale. And so the very concept of scaling is at the core of what building a company means for me. I'm not building a practice of one. I'm trying to have a systemic impact on mental health in the US and touch thousands of people. So how do you create an environment where those logic can live together? And to make things even worse, how do you do that in a remote first environment where we're on screens, but there is no coffee machine where we can hold each other, where we can get to know each other. We're basically two-dimensional individuals. And we did that post-COVID, post the murder of George Floyd, post the social unrest in New York, post the village and Soho on fire, um, at a unique social moment in the US where the social tension were dramatic. And so that was the crucible inside which we built a company. And of course, we did everything wrong until we did the right thing, you know. And so it was a very painful learning journey.
Have there been
Uh,
any lessons about trust?
so underlying all that, it's all about trust. Um, but my co-founder is a clinician. She's a social worker. She believes that if you want to go from A to B and one person gets hurt in going from A to B, it's not acceptable. That's profoundly her ethos, which is worse than do no harm. It's like it's care about every individual in the collective that you live with. I'm a business software guy. I will take you from A to B. Not that I don't care about the cost, but the cost is secondary compared to what getting to B. Now, those logic are impossible to reconcile. The logic of the business and logic of healthcare. Now, the solution is not to reconcile them and to hold the tension between the two and acknowledge that nobody's right. She's not right. I'm not right. She's not wrong. I'm not wrong. But it's okay that both logic are valid at the same time. And I don't need to convince her. She doesn't need to convince me as long as we respect both perspectives at the same time. And I
Yes.
think this is something really unique about healthcare because I have never seen that in any other industry. I have built businesses in consumer software, in enterprise software, in military aerospace, in finance. You don't have that. Healthcare is both the largest, most dysfunctional industry in the US, so
Yeah.
20% of GDP. The US has the highest spend in healthcare with the lowest outcome compared to the other developed countries. So you're like, oh, this is fantastic. It's so broken that if you can fix it by 1%, you can build an amazing company. But the reason it's broken is because it's intrinsically so complicated. Now, it's also why it's interesting. But th so so that's what we've been faced with. And for me, the last 6 years have been about being okay to move slowly. Um, and the company is not growing fast enough. And it's okay. It's
Mhm.
it's and to stop harassing people, asking them to go faster.
Yes.
Uh, and also, if you don't build the infrastructure, everything will collapse. Because it's one thing to have 10 people, it's another thing to have 100, it's another thing to have 500.
Very different.
And the infrastructure takes time and takes some investment. And so you have to this economy of scale as you grow, because everything that you build will eventually collapse and you have to rebuild it. And the people that you have at the startup phase are not the right people for the scale up phase. And so the company totally morphs, irrespectively of the fact that it's a healthcare company, as you grow. And so there is this metaphor about building the plane, as you're taking off from the tarmac, and it's very true. A startup is about fixing problem, and everybody does everything. A scale up is about building the machine that's going to fix the problem. And people talk about building the machine that's going to build the machine that's going to fix the problem as kind of, the right way to do it. Um, but it's a totally different world, as you grow. And so it's been a it's been a humbling, amazing learning experience.
Yes. I know my viewers are going to be interested to hear your thoughts on this question. We live in a time where technology is moving very, very fast with, of course, the evolution of AI, which is interesting to watch the tension there, of people embracing it and other people fearing it. And I think it's here to stay and moving and growing. But in a company, as it's growing, we look at new technology and we need to innovate. At the same time, we need to be conscious of how do we keep the lights on? How do you see that of how you innovate at the same time, making sure the bottom line is taken care of?
So there's really two questions here that are fundamental question. The first one is, as you grow, how do you keep innovate, and how do you make sure that you don't get sucked into reality? So as the founder or as the innovator, your job is to show people what we're going to build. And you live in the future. And it's great to live in the future because it's always nicer than the present. And so you create this vision, and you explain to your team and to everybody that this is the future. This is what we're building. And as you develop the company, you get literally like in a quicksand, you get sucked into reality because your future becomes less and less and less credible. Now, living in the future doesn't mean that you're lying. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have to be a psychopath. Um, but your job as a founder is to hold this tension between the present and the future, and the present becomes heavier and heavier and heavier because your software architecture is not the right one, and the stuff doesn't work, and and nothing is working the way it should because this is reality. So how do you maintain this tension, and how do you make sure that you don't give up on the future? So that's kind of question number one. Um, and there's no answer to that. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like when you get to a fork on the road, take it. So this is the answer. Your job, and it's literally a crucifixion. Your job is to hold the tension between what is and what and the future that you want, which is the reason you started this company. And it's really painful because you need to do it in an honest way because lying doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work, and so so that is a living crucifixion, and it's horrible. It's really hard. And then there is a second question, which is how do you use technology to solve the problem that you're working on? Um, Now, we are from the school of technology-enabled human. Now, because healthcare is not, you cannot remove the human. So several companies have tried. So technology is great because you have Moore's law, and everything that you invest in CapEx is going to be 10 times cheaper tomorrow. And so if I put a human in front of you, the cost of that human is going to increase. If I put a machine in front of you, the cost of that machine is going to decrease. And so the technologists love capital expense and they love machines. And companies like Forward, for example, were started and raised hundreds of millions of dollars to replace the PCP by a machine for first level of care. And they went bankrupt. And the pitch of the CEO was this one. I'm going to replace the human by a machine, and Moore's law is going to work for me, and that's how I'm going to win. So this is ridiculous. So it's ridiculous because um, you need the human. Uh, and so people will say the biggest usage of ChatGPT is for therapy, and I don't need a therapist because I'm going to use ChatGPT. Now, I read that I can't remember which state. I can't remember if it was Colorado or some other states have just outlawed the usage of AI bot without a human who is a licensed clinician who is legally responsible to take care of you. Um, so our worldview is we use technology to enhance human. We use data to enhance human. We use technology and money to develop human. And our secret sauce is we're in the business of creating great clinician, great humans. And we've created an education stack, a software stack, operation processes to do that. And we love technology, but it's technology at the service of a human that's going to take care of you. Maybe you are naive, and maybe we should remove the human, but that's not our worldview. Um, and and so we love AI. We use AI to improve our core processes. We use AI to increase the interaction between the clinician and the client to do exercise, and we use some agentic technology to do that. So between session, you will be in contact with your clinician. We use AI for AI-assisted diagnostic. So the medicine that has been prescribed for you will be better because we'll have more data. And so we're super AI excited and we invest in AI, but it's AI supporting the human clinician. Um, and and that's a belief, it's a strategy. That's how we build our company.
Thank you. Thank you. Fascinating. Um, what have you learned about building the leadership beneath you as your company grows?
So that's my job number one as the CEO. It's really difficult because of course you fall in love with people. So you meet people and like that guy is going to be a great VP of finance, or that woman is going to be an amazing VP of HR. So at the beginning we had no clue because I had invested and advised a lot of company, but this was my first CEO job. I read that successful company have a 50% failure rate in building their executive team. Our failure rate has been dramatically lower. So we've done well. It's been mostly trial and error, and then using our friends and our friends' friends and our friends' friends. Um, and but at the beginning, we had no clue.
Yes.
Uh, and 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 it's linked to culture. We're trying to create a culture where we fight against meeting. We believe that a meeting that you don't have to participate is a gift. And it has really evolved through time. So when the company is young, everybody wants to be everywhere. When the company grows, you want to be in as few meetings as possible because you want some time to get the job done. Um, and creating the diversity and the culture of your executive team will make or break the company. And then what we did is very early we met somebody that we like and that we hire as the shrink on call for the executive team. So we had a therapist who is a psychologist, licensed therapist, uh, organization development expert, who was there on call, available for anybody in the exec team to work with her on what he or her problem was in getting her job done. As an investor, I have invested in hundreds of companies, and most of them were dysfunctional or totally dysfunctional. And so we had our shrink for the executive team, a bit like the character in Billion, um, without the sex element. Uh, but that worked really well. It worked for me and my co-founder in helping us working together, and also working with each of the member of the executive team. So I would definitely recommend that.
I think building on that, um, how do you handle pushback in the organization when somebody wants to challenge or push back and has ideas? What does that look like?
So the role of the CEO is not to say anything. It's really hard. But the more you speak, the less people show up. You need to create it's very easy to complain that people are not taking ownership when you don't give them the agency and the power to take the decision. And so the problem is not pushback. The problem is when there is no pushback. And
Mhm.
you create this culture, um, and as a leader in the organization, it's really easy to believe that if you transmit your fear and your panic and your angst to the people working for you, and if you make their life as miserable than your life is, everything is
Yes.
going to. Now, obviously, it's the opposite of what you should do. And the question is, how do you create an environment where people can show up? Um, now, pushback is great. Now, people have to respect you. And if they don't respect you, this is not a democracy, it's a company. Um, and people have a job and they have KPIs and they have deliverable. Uh, and if they don't like it, they should be removed or they should leave by themselves. And so the problem is not pushback. The problem is the absence of dialogue and processes for decision making, where it's the one that screamed the loudest, that often is the founder or the CEO that wins. And then people don't show up because they are not crazy. And, and I know, for having lived through that, for a long time, I was complaining about people not showing up. But if people don't show up, it's your fault. At the end of the day, it's always your fault at the beginning and at the end as the leader. If people don't show up, it's your fault because you have not created an environment where they can show up, because you have not developed them in showing up, or because you have not hired people that do show up.
Yes.
Um, and the really, for me, the mental shift was shifting from the CEO that gets the job done to the coach that manages the player that you have for that season. And that has been absolutely dramatic for me, which is you have the player that you have, some of them are good, other are average, some of them are not great. You brought them, they're here, and your job is not to complain because they're not doing a great job. Your job is to get the best that you can from them, whoever they are and whatever they can do. And that's, as a leader, an amazing shift, which is liberating. And so instead of complaining that, that guy is not doing that, that guy is stupid. But it's like saying to a fish, you don't fly, so you're a stupid fish.
Yeah.
Fish can't swim. And so, complaining that that guy is stupid is really amazingly dumb. The question is, what can he do? And obviously, there is something he can do. Now, if that person cannot do anything, then you have to remove them. But probably there is something that that person can do really well. And so, it took me a long time to get there.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I think when we get to that point, there's also something to do um, to be a little introspect and understand what was going on in the hiring process, what was going further downstream that allowed that situation to happen, and be willing to look at that as well and grow from it. Where's your business going to be in 5 years?
I don't know where it's going to be in 5 weeks, but uh, or mental health is a $80 billion industry, which is totally broken. Our job is to create this new standard of quality and create partnership with payers and hospital system where that standard of quality is rewarded, which means paid more, so that the practitioner can adopt it. So we started 6 years ago. I think we have another 3 to 5 years to go. And I think if we are successful, we will embed this infrastructure somewhere. We're not building this company to sell it, but to have the maximum impact, we will embed the company somewhere. Uh, and that's where we will be in 5 years. Where? I don't know. I don't know. We'll be in the US, we'll be remote. I hope I will talk to you from Woodstock, which is a beautiful place. And I hope that we will have solved 1% of the problem that we started to resolve.
Yeah.
Now, 1% is enormous. You know?
Yes, it is in the environment you're in. What are you most hopeful about for the world right now?
Um, so that is the right question. I can tell you what I'm less hopeful for the world and what's preventing me from sleeping. So I think there is so the good news is that the access to knowledge and technology and the means of production is being democratized, and the cost of making things is being reduced to zero. So 100 years ago, you had factories, and the one that owns the means of production were controlling the world. And the worker couldn't do anything except go to the factory and sell their hands and their bloods and their tears on the machine. The machine is becoming free. I think we are evolving into a world of abundance where energy, computing, knowledge access is being democratized um, in in much in very unique way as never in the history of mankind. And we have to look at that not as a, an American middle class member, but globally. So the poverty is becoming less and less for the bottom half, and people are writing today on the rise of the first enterprise of one that is going to have $1 billion value through AI. And so access to AI, access to software, access to compute on the cloud is becoming free. That's incredible if for those that believe in agency. So, and the question is, what type of education does it take to create free men that in that world still believe that they can make a difference and are still driven by that? So, I think that's an incredible news. I
Yes.
think that under all the noise and the disaster that are unfolding in the world globally and all the change, fundamentally, Um, that's a profound shift that is going faster than anything we've seen. And that means that one guy in Islamabad can actually build a company that can change the
Yes.
world. And
Yes.
we celebrate that.
Yes. Thought-provoking. What advice would you give to a young founder just starting on the journey?
Uh, don't do this alone. Um, and surround yourself with people. The quality of your life is the quality of your relationship. This is this is really hard. This is so painful, so hard. I mean, so physically, emotionally painful. Now, it's immensely rewarding because you're a free man or a free woman, and that has no price. But don't do that for money. Do
Yes.
that for yourself and do that because you love building things. And obviously, money is a means to have an easier life. Um, but it takes longer. It's more difficult, and it's all about showing up. So as long as you show up, something good will probably happen to you. And so there is it's all about option value. Every day where you show up and you're on the phone and you're trying to build your company and you're doing something, every day that you try, something good might happen to you.
Yes.
And it's 99% about showing up and sweat and tears.
Yes. Show
And
up.
it's not about being smart.
You know,
And for
Mark, I think this will be an episode that my viewers might want to watch more than once. Marc Goldberg from Resilience Labs. Mark, do you have anything to share about Resilience Labs as we close today?
if you can go online, resiliencelab.us, you'll find everything about us. I am Mark, M-A-R-C, at resiliencelab.us. Tom, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's a wonderful way to finish this week. That has been
Yes.
a very long week.
Thank you so much. Marc Goldberg from Resilience Lab. I encourage you to listen to this more than once. There were pearls of wisdom and things that will motivate us. And remember, show up. This has been an episode of Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, Tom.